This story is titled, My Parents Want Me to Move Out While I Keep Paying Rent So My Golden Child Brother Can Move In With Them. But I do something better. Keep the house. Hi, everyone. Before we dive in, a quick favor. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and make sure you never miss out on amazing videos. All right, let's get started. Hey, people. So, I've been sitting on this story for a bit because, honestly, I still can't believe it's my life. But here I am, sharing it because maybe someone out there has been in my shoes or has advice. Fair warning, it's a bit long, but I need to explain everything for it to make sense. So, I'm the younger sibling in a family where my older brother Chase is the golden child. If you've ever heard the term golden child, just know my brother could be the poster boy for it. Chase has always been the favorite, and my mom doesn't even try to hide it. My mother is the classic case of a parent whose entire life revolves around her son. So, from the time he was born, he could do no wrong. Every accomplishment he had, no matter how small, was treated like it deserved a parade. Meanwhile, I could have won a Nobel Prize, and it'd just be, oh, that's nice, dear. Did you hear Chase got a B+ in math? Growing up, everything revolved around Chase. He always got the best toys, the first pick of whatever, and he never shared. I remember being 5 years old, begging to watch The Little Mermaid, but Chase insisted on Jurassic Park, so guess what we watched? My mom's reasoning? Well, he's older, sweetie. That was pretty much the theme of my childhood. When Chase went off to college, I thought I'd finally get a break. But no, my mom acted like the world was ending. She was inconsolable, constantly saying how much she missed her baby boy and how quiet the house felt without him. I was still there, by the way, but apparently I didn't count. She'd call him multiple times a day, email him, even send him care packages weekly. I don't think I've ever received a care package in my life, but sure, Chase needed one every 7 days. After Chase graduated, he got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Harper. She's honestly nice, and I've got no beef with her, but that engagement brought out a new level of crazy in my mom. She treated it like it was her own wedding. I'm talking about obsessing over the venue, picking out decorations, and even buying a dress that looked suspiciously bridal. Harper was gracious about the whole thing, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled about my mom trying to steal the spotlight. Chase and Harper settled in Austin after they got married. It's a decent distance from us here in North Carolina, so I thought my mom might finally start focusing on her own life instead of obsessing over Chase. But no. Instead, she started daydreaming about them moving back. My mom has this fantasy of a big, multi-generational household where we all live together under one roof, and she gets to play grandma to a bunch of kids. Never mind the fact that Chase and Harper don't even have kids yet. While all this was happening, I stayed local for college. It made sense financially, and I figured it'd be nice to help my parents out since they were getting older. After I graduated, I landed a pretty decent job in the city and decided to keep living at home. It was convenient. My job was only a 15-minute drive away, and I figured I'd save up some money while helping out around the house. Plus, my parents had mentioned several times that they planned to leave me the house someday. My mom used to say things like, "One day, this place will be yours, and your dad and I will move to Texas to be closer to Chase and Harper's kids." Of course, that was before it became clear there weren't going to be any grandkids anytime soon. For the past few years, I've been covering most of the bills. My parents retired early, and while they have a little bit of savings, it's not enough to cover everything. So I've been the one keeping the lights on, paying for groceries, and making sure everything gets taken care of. It hasn't been easy, but I didn't mind too much. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting my family. Besides, it's not like Chase was contributing. He rarely even visits. The last time I saw him was Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and even then, he spent most of the time complaining about his life in Texas. Now you'd think my parents would appreciate the fact that I've been holding down the fort all these years. But no. Instead, my mom spends most of her time talking about how much she misses Chase and how she wishes he'd move back home. It's exhausting. Anytime we sit down for dinner, it's, "Do you think Chase and Harper will ever move back? It would be so nice to have them here, don't you think?" She even has this idea that she and Dad could convert one of the spare rooms into a nursery for when they finally have grandkids. Never mind that they don't even have a spare room, because they turned Chase's old bedroom into a home office years ago. Speaking of the home office, let me tell you about that. After Chase moved to Texas, my dad decided to remodel his old room. He turned it into a fully decked-out office for my mom, complete with a custom desk and built-in shelves. My mom uses it for all her hobbies: scrapbooking, writing letters, whatever. She loves that room, and for a while, it seemed like she was finally moving on from her Chase obsession. But then Thanksgiving happened, and Chase made some offhand comment about how weird it felt not to have his old room anymore. My mom latched onto that and spent the next month trying to convince my dad to turn the office back into a bedroom, just in case Chase ever comes back. But he didn't. Anyway, that brings us to now. Things have been relatively quiet until recently, but something's changed. My mom's been acting weird. She's been dropping hints about big changes coming soon and asking me things like, "Have you ever thought about living on your own?" The other night, she casually mentioned that it might be a good time for me to start looking for my own place and get married. At first, I thought she was just trying to be supportive or something, but now I'm not so sure. However, as the days went on, my mom's hints went from casual to straight up invasive. She kept asking questions like, "Do you ever feel like you're missing out on life?" Or, "Wouldn't it be fun to decorate your own apartment?" I didn't think too much of it at first, but then she started leaving rental listings on the kitchen counter. I'm not joking. There were printouts with circled addresses and notes in her handwriting like, "Great location," and "Close to work." It was weird, but I didn't confront her right away. I guess I didn't want to believe she was actively trying to push me out. But things got clearer when my dad started dropping comments too. Now, my dad is usually the quieter one between my parents. He mostly keeps to himself and avoids family drama. So, when he suddenly started saying things like, "You're not a kid anymore. Don't you want your own space?" Or, "You can't live with your parents forever. You have to get married or move out," I knew something was up. For context, I'm 27, so yeah, maybe living with my parents isn't ideal, but I've been doing it for practical reasons. It's not like I'm freeloading. I've been paying for everything. The whole setup worked because I've been footing the bills while they enjoy early retirement. So, why the sudden push for me to leave? Then, one night, everything clicked. We were having dinner and my mom casually said, "Chase and Harper are thinking about coming back to North Carolina. Wouldn't it be nice to have the whole family together again?" She said it with this huge smile, like it was the best idea in the world. I didn't react much at first because I wanted to see where she was going with it. Sure enough, she kept talking. "It's just that we don't have much room here anymore," she said, glancing at me like I was the problem. "If they moved back, we'd have to make some adjustments. Maybe we could even turn your room into a nursery someday." I sat there, trying to process what I'd just heard. My room? The one I've been paying to keep a roof over? Now it's a future nursery for Chase's imaginary kids? It felt like a slap in the face, but I didn't say anything. My dad chimed in, saying, "It's something to think about. You're doing great at work. You could afford a nice place of your own." I could feel the frustration bubbling up, but I stayed quiet. I wanted to hear their whole plan before I said anything. Over the next few days, they kept dropping more hints. My mom brought up the idea of turning the home office back into a bedroom just in case. Chase and Harper needed it. She even started talking about how exciting it would be to have a full house again, as if I wasn't already living there. It became clear that this wasn't just some casual daydreaming. They were serious about Chase and Harper moving in. The part that really stung was how little they cared about my role in all this. I've been supporting them for years. I'm the reason the mortgage gets paid, the utilities stay on, and there's food in the fridge. Chase hasn't contributed a dime to this household since he moved to Texas. And now, because he might move back, they're ready to kick me out like I'm a guest who's overstayed their welcome. It's not just about the money either. It's the way they talk about Chase like he's the second coming of Christ. My mom keeps going on about how hard it must be for him to be so far from family. "He's always been such a family-oriented person," she said the other day, as if the man didn't willingly move to another state and barely call home. Meanwhile, I've been here the whole time, doing everything I can to help them, and it's like none of that matters. What really got me was when I overheard my mom on the phone with one of her friends. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but she was talking loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. She was going on about how perfect it would be if Chase moved back and how she couldn't wait to have Harper around to help out with the cooking. I didn't hear her mention me once. Not my name, not my contributions, nothing. It was like I didn't even exist in her vision of the future. The next day, my mom sat me down for what she called a family discussion. My dad was there too, but as usual, he just let her do most of the talking. She started by saying how proud they were of me and how much they appreciated everything I've done for them. It sounded nice at first, but then she pivoted to the real topic, Chase and Harper. "We've been talking about how to make this house work for everyone," she said, "and we think it might be time for you to spread your wings." I asked her what she meant, even though I already knew. "Well," she said, "with Chase and Harper coming back, it'll be a little crowded. But we think it's a good opportunity for you to find your own place and start living independently." She said it like it was some great gift they were giving me, as if pushing me out of the house I've been paying for was doing me a favor. I stayed calm and asked what they planned to do about the bills. My mom smiled and said, "Oh, we were hoping you could keep contributing for a while, just until Chase and Harper get settled." Yeah, because it made perfect sense. They wanted me to move out, but still pay the bills so Chase and Harper could live rent-free. I don't even know if Chase has agreed to move back yet, but they're already rolling out the red carpet for him. At this point, it was hard to keep my emotions in check. I asked why Chase couldn't just get a place nearby if he really wanted to come back. My mom sighed and said, "It's not that simple. They're going through a lot right now, and they need family support. You wouldn't understand. You've always been so independent." She said it like it was a bad thing, like my independence was some kind of character flaw. The conversation ended with my mom asking me to think about it and let them know what I decide. I didn't say much. I was too angry to trust myself to respond without blowing up. Afterward, I went to my room and started pacing, trying to figure out what to do. I've never felt so hurt and unappreciated in my life. It's like everything I've done for them means nothing compared to the chance to have Chase back under their roof. Ever since that conversation, I kept going back and forth between being hurt and furious. It was hard to focus on anything else. Every time I looked around the house, I kept thinking about how much of it I'd kept running. The fridge was stocked because of me. The power stayed on because of me. The Wi-Fi they used to binge-watch shows all day? But apparently, none of that mattered, because the golden child might be coming back. For the next week, things at home were weird. My parents were clearly waiting for my decision, but I wasn't ready to give them an answer yet. They kept acting like nothing was wrong, which made it worse. My mom was humming while making dinner, asking me how work was going, like she hadn't just asked me to uproot my life for Chase. My dad avoided me for the most part, which was typical of him when things got tense. Meanwhile, I started quietly preparing for what I knew I needed to do. I tried to figure out my options. I knew I couldn't keep living in a house where I was treated like an afterthought. Even if I stayed, the dynamic would never change, and I'd just be prolonging the inevitable. So I started looking for apartments. It wasn't easy because most places near my job were either outrageously expensive or came with reviews that sounded like horror stories. But I eventually found a small place that was reasonably priced and close enough to work that I could walk. The idea of not having to deal with traffic every morning was almost enough to make me smile. Once I decided to move, I realized how much I had to do before I could leave. First, I needed to make sure I had all my important documents. Birth certificate, social security card, bank information, all of it had to come with me. I wasn't about to give my parents any excuse to hold something over my head later. I also started packing my things little by little. I didn't want to make a big scene, so I worked on it late at night when everyone else was asleep. During this time, I've started seeing someone, and having my own place is priceless. The apartment was fully furnished, so I moved in right away. As I was planning all this, I started noticing things I hadn't paid much attention to before, like how much of the furniture in the house was technically mine. Even the microwave was something I picked up during a Black Friday sale because ours had stopped working. The more I looked around, the more I realized how much I'd contributed to this house, and it just made me angrier. How could they ask me to leave when so much of this place was held together by me? A few days before I planned to move out, I overheard another conversation between my mom and Chase. She was on the phone again, this time gushing about how excited she was for him to come home. She kept saying things like, "Don't worry about anything, sweetie, we'll figure it all out," and "We'll make sure you and Harper have everything you need." It was like she had already decided I was gone, and Chase was moving in, even though I hadn't told her anything yet. That was the final push I needed to get out of there. The night I moved out was emotional, but not in the way you might think. I waited until midnight to start loading my car because I'm dramatic just like that. My parents were asleep, and I wanted to avoid any confrontations. I'd already signed the lease on my new apartment, and the landlord had given me the keys, so there was nothing holding me back. Packing up my car was a surreal experience. I couldn't believe how much stuff I had accumulated over the years. It felt strange to see my life reduced to boxes and bags. Once everything was loaded up, I sat in the driver's seat for a moment and just breathed. I thought I'd feel sad or maybe even guilty, but all I felt was relief. I was finally doing something for myself, and it felt good. Before I pulled out of the driveway, I sent a quick text to my mom. "I've moved out. The bills are your responsibility now. Good luck with that." It wasn't the most graceful exit, but I didn't think they deserved much more than that. The next morning, my phone blew up with calls and messages from my mom. She left several voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. The first one was just her saying, "What's going on? Did you leave? Call me back." By the third voicemail, she was practically yelling, demanding to know where I was and why I hadn't told her I was leaving. I didn't respond. I blocked her, my dad, and Chase on every platform I could think of. I even blocked Harper, just to be safe. I knew they'd try to guilt me into coming back, and I wasn't about to let that happen. I focused on adjusting in my new apartment. It was small but cozy, and it already felt more like home than my parents' house ever did. I spent the first night unpacking and setting up my space. It was a little overwhelming, but it was also exciting. I finally had a place that was entirely mine, where I didn't have to walk on eggshells or deal with constant comparisons to Chase. The next day, I called a few close friends to let them know what had happened. They were all supportive and said they couldn't believe how my parents had treated me. One friend even offered to help me decorate my new place, which was a nice gesture. It felt good to know I had people in my corner. But just as I was starting to settle into my new life, I got a call that threw me off balance. It was from a neighbor back at my parents' house. She wanted to check on me because she'd overheard a big fight between Chase and Harper the day before. Apparently, Chase and Harper had already arrived at my parents' place, and things weren't going smoothly. After hearing about the fight from the neighbor, I felt a weird mix of relief and dread. Part of me thought, good, let them deal with their own chaos now. But another part of me couldn't stop wondering what was actually going on back there. I tried to push it out of my mind and focus on settling into my new life, but of course my family wasn't about to let me go that easily. A few days later, my Aunt Clara called me out of nowhere. She's my mom's cousin, but we all just call her Aunt Clara. She's one of those people who knows everyone's business and has no problem getting involved, even when no one asks her to. Honestly, I'd been avoiding her since I moved out because I knew she'd side with my parents. Sure enough, as soon as I picked up, she launched into a lecture. Here's what I just found out from a 2-hour phone call that nearly blew out my right eardrum. Your mother is heartbroken, you know, she said, skipping any sort of greeting. She's been crying nonstop since you left. How could you do this to her? To them? I took a deep breath and said, Clara, I didn't do anything to them. I just moved out. They're adults. They can handle it. She scoffed. Moved out? You abandoned them when they needed you most. Do you even know what's happening over there? I rolled my eyes, but something in her tone caught my attention. What are you talking about? I asked. There was a pause before she said, the house. They're behind on the mortgage. Your parents are on the verge of losing it. Now, this was news to me. What mortgage? I asked, confused. They paid off the house years ago. That's what you think, Clara said, clearly enjoying the drama. They took out a second mortgage a couple of years ago. Apparently, it was to help Chase and Harper. I can't believe you didn't know. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything at first because I was too busy trying to process what I'd just heard. A second mortgage? For Chase and Harper? And I'd been unknowingly paying it off this whole time? Completely oblivious? Clara kept talking, but I barely heard her. Something about how I needed to come back and fix this mess because family sticks together. I hung up on her mid-sentence, which is probably the rudest thing I've ever done. But I didn't care. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to get them from her. The next day, I went to the bank. I wanted to confirm what Clara had said because part of me hoped she was just exaggerating. But nope, she wasn't. The bank teller confirmed that there was, indeed, a second mortgage on the house. It had been taken out 2 years ago, and the payments were being automatically withdrawn from the account I'd been depositing money into every month. All this time, I thought I was just covering utilities and helping out with groceries. Turns out, I was also paying for a mortgage I didn't even know existed. The rage I felt in that moment was indescribable. It wasn't just that they'd lied to me, it was the fact that they'd taken advantage of me for years without a second thought. I'd been working hard, budgeting carefully, and skipping out on luxuries so I could support them, and they used that money to bail out Chase and Harper. It was like every bad feeling I'd ever had about being second to Chase was suddenly validated in the worst way possible. I went home that night and just sat in my apartment. All I could think about was how stupid I'd been to trust them. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had about money, wondering how I didn't see the signs. My mom always made these offhand comments about how tight things were, but then insisted everything was fine whenever I offered to help more. Now I knew why, because they didn't want me asking too many questions. The worst part was realizing how much they must have given to Chase and Harper. My parents aren't exactly known for being financially savvy, so I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Chase the bulk of the loan in one big chunk instead of spreading it out. And knowing Chase, he probably blew through it without a second thought. I debated confronting my parents about it, but I wasn't sure I could handle the conversation without losing my temper. Plus, I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking I was coming back to help. They made this mess, and they have to clean it up on their own. Still, I couldn't help but feel hurt. It's one thing to play favorites. It's another thing entirely to lie to your kid and use their money to cover your mistakes. Over the next few days, I started getting more calls from family members. Clara must have told everyone because suddenly, I was the villain of the story. My uncle left me a voicemail saying I needed to step up and do the right thing. Another cousin texted me, calling me selfish for abandoning my parents when they were struggling, and that I left them on the verge of homelessness with nothing in their pockets. It was like they were all reading from the same script. What none of them seemed to understand was that this wasn't just about money. It was about years of being treated like I didn't matter. It was about always being expected to sacrifice for Chase while he got a free pass. And now, they wanted me to come back and fix everything because they couldn't admit they'd screwed up. No thanks. Still, part of me couldn't stop thinking about what Clara had said about the house being in jeopardy. As much as I wanted to let them deal with the fallout on their own, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen if they actually lost the house. Would they come crawling back to me, begging for help? Would Chase step up for once in his life? Or would they all just blame me for not swooping in to save the day? I don't have answers now, but I know one thing for sure. I am not going to be their safety net anymore. They'd burned that bridge the moment they decided Chase's comfort was more important than my trust. I'll keep you guys posted. Update 1. Hey guys, I came back with an update for you. So, here's where things stand now. A lot has happened since I found out about the second mortgage and decided to let my parents and Chase figure things out on their own. I thought I was done with them, but of course, nothing is ever that simple with my family. After weeks of silence from my parents, I got an unexpected letter from the bank. Yep, the same bank that confirmed the second mortgage. It was a notice about missed payments on the house. Apparently, my parents had been late on their payments for months, and now foreclosure was looming. The letter was addressed to me because, surprise, I was still listed as the primary contributor on their account. I don't know if it was laziness or some messed up manipulation tactic, but they never bothered to remove me after I moved out. I was furious. It wasn't enough that they'd lied to me and used my money to bail out Chase. They also dragged me into their financial disaster. I called the bank to clarify that I was no longer involved, but since the payments were coming from my account for so long, I was technically tied to the mortgage. The representative kindly explained that my parents could lose the house unless the overdue payments were covered immediately. She even asked if I'd like to make a payment right then. I almost laughed at the audacity. At first, I told myself I wasn't going to do anything. Let the house go. Let them all figure out where to live. But as much as I wanted to let it all burn, there was a part of me that couldn't let go of the house that was promised to be mine. I grew up there. I'd put so much money into it, not to mention memories. And let's be real. If my parents lost the house, they'd just show up at my doorstep, guilt-tripping me into taking them in. Chase would probably bring Harper along for the ride too. No way was I signing up for that nightmare. So, after a lot of thinking and venting to a few friends, I came up with a plan. If I was going to get involved, it would be on my terms. I wasn't about to bail them out without something to show for it. If they wanted to keep the house, it was going to be mine. The next day, I went back to the bank to figure out my options. Turns out buying the house outright was possible, but it would require my parents to transfer the title to me. Basically, I'd become their landlord. The idea was both satisfying and a little scary, but I knew it was the best way to protect myself. If they couldn't handle the responsibility, I'd take it out of their hands. Armed with this plan, I went back to my parents' house for the first time since I left. The atmosphere was tense as soon as I walked in. My mom tried to hug me, but I dodged her and went straight to the kitchen table, where Chase and Harper were sitting. Chase was scrolling through his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. Harper looked stressed, but she didn't say much. My dad was off to the side, pretending to read the newspaper. I laid it all out for them. I told them about the foreclosure notice, the missed payments, and how the bank had contacted me. My mom tried to interrupt with some excuse about how things have been tight, but I shut her down. I don't want to hear it, I said. You lied to me about the mortgage, used my money without telling me, and now you're expecting me to clean up your mess. Here's the deal. I'll save the house, but only if you sign it over to me. The room went silent. My dad was the first to speak. That's ridiculous, he said. This house is our legacy. You can't just take it from us. Your legacy? I shot back. You put this house at risk the moment you took out that second mortgage to help Chase. You've done nothing but take advantage of me, and now you're facing the consequences. Either sign it over or lose it. Chase finally looked up from his phone, glaring at me. You're seriously trying to steal the house? Wow, real classy. You always were jealous of me. I laughed in his face. Jealous? Of what? Your freeloading lifestyle? Please, I'm offering a solution to a problem you helped create. If you don't like it, feel free to pack your bags and find somewhere else to live. Harper looked like she wanted to say something, but held back. I couldn't blame her. It was clear she was stuck in the middle of all this chaos. My mom started crying, of course, but I didn't let it sway me. I'd seen this act too many times to fall for it again. It's your choice, I said, standing up. Sign the house over or let the bank take it. I don't care which. I gave them a week to decide. During that time, I kept getting calls from my mom begging me to reconsider. She tried every tactic: guilt, anger, manipulation, but I didn't budge. I told her the same thing every time. I'll take care of the house if it's mine, otherwise I'm out. Eventually, they caved. My dad called me a few days later, saying they were ready to sign the paperwork. I think the reality of losing the house finally hit them. They didn't want to move, and they definitely didn't want to rely on Aunt Clara or anyone else for help. Chase wasn't happy about it, but there wasn't much he could do. Harper, surprisingly, seemed relieved. I think she saw this as a chance to escape the chaos, even if she didn't say it outright. Once the paperwork was finalized, the house was officially mine. I made it clear that my parents could stay as long as they followed my rules. They had to keep up with their share of the bills, and Chase would have to start paying rent if he wanted to stay. No exceptions. Chase, of course, threw a tantrum. He called me every name in the book, accusing me of being selfish and ruining the family. I just shrugged it off. I'd spent enough of my life trying to please them, and I wasn't going to waste any more energy on his whining. As for my parents, they seemed to accept the new arrangement, but things were definitely strained between us. My mom barely spoke to me unless it was absolutely necessary, and my dad kept his distance. I could tell they resented me for taking control, but I didn't care. For the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. The fallout wasn't pretty, but I didn't regret my decision. I'd spent years being taken for granted, and it was time for me to take back what I deserved. The house was mine now, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. I'll post a final update once I see how things will go. Final update. Hey everyone. It's been a while since I last updated, and things have changed a lot. I wanted to wrap up everything for those who followed this mess. So here's where things stand. After I officially took over the house, things got tense, as expected. Chase was furious. He called me names, accused me of being greedy, and even tried to guilt-trip our parents into siding with him. None of it worked. They knew the alternative was losing the house entirely, and I think they realized how serious I was about not letting them steamroll me anymore. Chase refused to pay rent. He said it was disrespectful for me to charge him anything, and acted like it was beneath him to contribute. So I gave him a deadline. Pay up or get out. He didn't believe I'd follow through, but the day after his rent was due, I filed for eviction. He threw a fit and packed up to leave, dragging Harper with him. Harper, though, didn't stick around with Chase for long. A few weeks later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she left him. She got a new job, found her own place, and seems to be doing well. I can't say I blame her. She was stuck in an impossible situation with him. Good for her for getting out. As for my parents, they've stayed in the house under my conditions. They handle their share of the bills now, though there's still some resentment between us. I think my mom's dream of having Chase and Harper close by is officially dead, and she doesn't quite know how to handle it. My dad, to his credit, has kept things civil. We're not exactly close, but at least we're not at each other's throats. Honestly, things are calmer now. The house is quiet, and I'm finally starting to feel like I have control over my life again. It's not perfect. Family relationships rarely are, but I don't regret the decisions I made. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm not just a supporting character in someone else's story. That's it for now. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and support along the way. It helped me more than I can say. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back someday with another update. But for now, I'm just focused on moving forward.